Welcome to American Education FM, everybody. I'm Dr. Sean Brooks.
Well, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I'm throwing this episode together rather quickly here. My apologies perhaps for the sound of my voice or the cadence or whatever it may be. It's a little early here in the morning. Congratulations, of course. That goes without saying. Well done. I'll say this. There's an element here in this election which shouldn't shock really any of us that Donald Trump won. But there's an element that no one's discussing, and I mean nobody. And I can't believe it, but I'm going to sit back and I'm going to wait to see if anybody brings this up. Last night when I'm watching all of these numbers come in, and this was hilarious too, by the way, all these so-called independent media individuals, okay, they're all watching Fox News. All of them. Stu Peters was watching Fox News. InfoWars was watching Fox News. All these channels, they're like, well, we got people on the ground and we're going to analyze these numbers and we're going to do this and we're going to do that. All these people are all watching Fox News. And of course, it took forever for Fox News to even, not just, they called the presidency clearly, but they weren't calling other states, which was absolutely hilarious. They refused to call Michigan, still now. They refused to call so many other states, which are clearly won by Donald Trump. But even so, they're all watching Fox News. And again, they all hate Fox News and criticize Fox News. But again, I was watching Fox News because I knew that they are the machine. And I wanted to see if they were going to steal it again. But the element, and this is it, the element that no one is saying is the simple fact that Democrats between 2020 and 2024 overwhelmingly took those death shots. That's the variable in this entire equation. You can't make up that death toll with voter fraud. Yes, there was voter fraud. Again, I have pages and pages of notes to go through here, and it's going to be a little helter-skelter. But the overarching theme here, in my humble opinion, and like I said, it hit me like a freight train last night. Around midnight, I'm going, well, yeah. These people, again, Bill Hemmer on Fox News, Miami University graduate, oddly enough. Bill Hemmer, again, he's looking at these numbers and he's going, well, these counties don't have quite the turnout. Now, yes, of course, there's endless individuals who change party affiliations. And yeah, there's, the so-called black vote came out for Trump in droves. No doubt about that. I mean, there's no doubt. But ladies and gentlemen, Democrats and liberals took those death shots. They took the COVID bioweapon vaccine. And they're dead. You can't make that up. You can't make up that death toll. You're talking about tens of millions of people nationwide who are dead from those shots. Voter fraud can't make up that difference. It can't. Now let me get into some of this voter fraud because it was still rampant. And people have to understand that, and I know you know this, but there are many states in the United States that cannot have Republicans in charge. They can't have a conservative in charge, which again, all the more reason proves that we have to have a nationwide cleansing of this entire country of illegal aliens. All the foreigners have to go. All of them. They have to. There have to be endless executive orders, military, and anybody who gets in the way needs to be arrested. Arizona, for example, there's no way that Gallego, or whatever the hell his name is, beat Kerry Lake. There's no way. And by the way, I might curse in this episode again, my apologies, but there's no fucking way. There's no way. There's absolutely no way. Kerry Lake should be the lawful governor of Arizona. And now she loses, allegedly, in Arizona again? As a senator? I don't think so. Mark Robinson, losing the governor's race in North Carolina to a Jew. Josh Stein, who no one's ever heard of? Absolutely not. No chance. They don't want Robinson in there because he wants to clean house. That was voter fraud. Yes, I understand, again, the hurricane impact, no doubt about it. But the death shots wiped out more Democrats in North Carolina than the hurricane did. And Robinson still lost? No chance. Voter fraud. 100%. There has to be accountability here. There has to be accountability for this voter fraud. It existed. I mean, it was everywhere. But like I said, the element that no one's bringing up is the fact that the COVID shots were the variable in the equation between 2020 and 2024, and copious amounts of people in our country are dead from those shots, and you can't voter fraud your way away from that. You can't. Again, the popular vote, quote unquote, okay? I'm looking at this chart right here. You had a popular vote of Democrats in 2012 that was over 65%. It maintained itself in 2016. In 2020, they wanted you to believe that over 82 million people voted for Joe Biden and that he won the so-called popular vote. Well, based on 2024 now and last night's results, that popular vote among Democrats was down back again to just over 65 million people. Now, I don't think that 82 million people voted for Joe Biden in 2020. Didn't happen. That was voter fraud. We know that. But the number came down exponentially. Back down to, again, allegedly, just over 65 million people. But again, I don't even trust that. There are just less Democrats alive. Because overwhelmingly, as you know, because I've been over the statistics on this show with regularity regarding, again, the different demographics and political affiliations and who took the shots and who didn't, all that stuff. It is the variable in the equation. It's glaring. But no one's going to bring that up. They're not going to mention it. It's huge. Jesse James and Outcast, if you're listening to this, bring that up on your show. Again, the next time you guys have your show, bring that up. It's the element. And no one on either side of the so-called, again, political landscape is going to mention that. Because that makes everybody look bad. That makes all political parties look bad. What did we support? Well, I don't know. It's called depopulation. That was the element. Again, that was the overwhelming element. Now let me get into some of my show notes here. In watching Fox News the other night, again, it's a complete show and completely ridiculous, but Harris Faulkner had this little sideshow where she was allegedly talking to real Americans. And it's basically just like every demographic you can possibly imagine all tossed into one room. I've seen some of these faces before. These are not, like, let's grab them off the street and put them in a seat and we'll ask them what they think. That wasn't it. Out of the gate, a guy instantly is asked, he's the first one asked these questions, and he's got a shaved head and he's Jewish and whatever else. Out of the gate, he goes, well, it's all the rampant anti-Semitism, and I support Israel, our greatest ally, and, that's exactly why I'm voting for Donald Trump, and blah, blah, blah. He was the first one who got chosen. He's sitting right in the middle of this group. It was painfully obvious that all of this was staged. It was completely fake. So again, with her nonsense show aside and all the back and forth, all of it was beyond embarrassing. Sean Hannity comes on the show, and he's sitting at the desk, and he basically says, Donald Trump's going to win Georgia, and he's going to win North Carolina. That's what I'm hearing from my people on the ground, my sources, and blah, 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 blah. And then everybody at the table all started losing their minds, and they were like, well, that's what Sean Hannity says, but we're going to have to wait and see, and blah, blah, blah. Again, Mark Robinson didn't lose the governorship in North Carolina. There's no way. And losing again to a no-name Jewish guy in a red state. And this guy, by the way, this Stein fellow, is open borders to the bone. So is Gallego in Arizona, which means Arizona and North Carolina are going to look like Springfield, Ohio on steroids. It's going to look like the Congo in no time. I'm dead serious. The people in that state have no idea what they're in for. They're going to flood it with every leftist policy you can possibly flip and imagine. Unless, of course, the good guys get in control of what's really going on at the state level and arrest some people. And the voter fraud is found out. And these people are arrested and held accountable. This has to happen. No one votes. Again, a red ticket straight down the line and then skips over Mark Robinson. The guy is a Trump supporter. He's been out there since the start. He's the best lieutenant governor that North Carolina's ever had, to my knowledge anyway. And what? He loses the governorship? I don't think so. No chance. No chance. There aren't enough Jewish people in North Carolina to not vote for him and vote for a Democrat Jewish guy who no one's ever heard of, who is open borders policy, again, to the bone. It's impossible. So again, if Space Force is watching any of this, and again, this was being surveilled in a way that, past elections haven't been. There have to be comeuppances here. There has to be some serious accountability. Okay. My show notes, good Lord. Again, it's a bit helter-skelter. My apologies here. First of all, I found this odd. Again, it was a commercial during all the Fox News stuff. Martin Scorsese has a Fox Nation series called The Saints. So again, Fox News is not our friend. Why would you hire Martin Scorsese to create a 4-part series about Jesus Christ and 3 other people? I don't know. It just seemed beyond odd. Yes, okay, let me see here. Voter turnout, yeah, low, jabbed, dead, yep, that was it. Fox News, during their nonsense, they were talking about how there was it was Laura Ingraham, and of course she's a fool, but Laura Ingraham was talking about how there was no good debate on the economy, that neither Donald Trump nor Kamala Harris were talking about the economy, and that's what American voters care about most, outside of illegal immigration or the migrant situation, quote unquote, but that there was no good debate on the economy. The hell there wasn't. It's all Donald Trump talked about. It wasn't the only thing, but it was clearly in the top 2-3 things he consistently talked about. Kamala Harris never talked about it because she never had an answer. But again, for anybody on Fox to say that, they're completely stupid. Let's see here. Illegals voting, yep, I wrote that down again. Again, Sherrod Brown. This was hilarious. Oh my God, okay. So Bernie Moreno wins. The ads against Bernie Moreno were through the roof. They were all over YouTube. Bernie Moreno hates women. Bernie Moreno was taken to court for discriminating against a woman one time in the workplace, so we need to not vote for him. Sherrod Brown has done nothing in Ohio. He's done absolutely nothing. He's been sitting there for 30 years. He basically represents Cleveland. And Cleveland is still the armpit of Ohio, always has been, always will be. No offense, Cleveland. Yes, I called you the armpit, but even so, even the people who live in Cleveland know that. But that's the issue. So, again, Sherrod Brown's done nothing, but the radio ads, honest to God, on Monday, the radio ads on Monday for Sherrod Brown against Bernie Moreno, ladies and gentlemen, were the most comical ads I've ever heard in my life on the radio. And it went like this. I'm paraphrasing, and I'm gonna mock the voice and impersonate the voice of the person who was doing this. But it was a black guy, and he's on the radio, and he's going, Bernie Moreno don't care about you. He don't give nothing for nobody. And that was the whole ad. It was just that. Bernie Moreno's, he's for the MAGA and the white supremacists, baby, and that's it. He doesn't care about you, but Sherrod Brown does. Don't vote for Bernie Moreno, baby. That was it. It was the most, I had to use the fake word racist. It was the most racist ad I've ever heard in my life. Again, Bernie Moreno and all his MAGA white supremacists. That's an actual quote. That was in the radio ad. Who believes that? It's absurd. People, again, voted for Bernie Moreno because people are tired of listening to Sherrod Brown's grizzled voice. They just don't like him. He's done nothing. He's done absolutely nothing. And then, of course, they threw out the entire abortion issue here in Ohio. That was the whole thing. Bernie Moreno is going to stomp on your abortion rights and your right to kill your own child. I mean, honest to God, people don't even understand how a senatorial seat works. That's not how it operates. The abortion issue, as awful an issue as it is a state issue now. It's not a federal government issue. There's no Senate voting on the issue anymore. It's over. It just becomes a state issue. But these people don't seem to understand, let alone know or think about, that Senate seats in Washington, D.C. for a representative of a state don't vote on state issues. I mean, they're not in the House at the state level. They're not voting for anything. They don't approve anything. It's ridiculous. And of course, this has to be brought up yet again. I'm going to keep bringing it up, probably for the rest of time. The shot taking. People in Cleveland in droves, including blacks and including Democrats, took the shots. There's less of them now. That's a huge variable here. Again, no one's saying this. When you take individuals shifting parties, or this so-called not voting, which, let's face it, why aren't they voting? Well, they're dead. Can't vote when you're dead. And like I said earlier, you can't make up that amount of voter fraud. The number is too high. You're talking about tens of millions of people who took those shots. Certainly in Ohio and in Cleveland and in these red counties. It's nuts. Absolutely nuts. Let me do this too before I get back to my show notes here on the national stuff. I gotta run down some local shit here. Okay, very quickly, if you've been listening to the show for quite some time, you can recall that I brought up the Westerville City Schools with regularity. Again, I have family there, and my niece and nephew go there. Their school levy failed. In fact, most school levies, the vast majority in Ohio that were on the ballot, failed. Get a load of this. The Westerville City Schools levy, as of midnight on Tuesday night, it passed by 7 votes, but it didn't pass. It failed. Because hours later, with 100% of the precincts in, 52.2% of the population voting there voted no on the levy. They voted no. So it didn't pass, which is great. That's fantastic. But seriously, I mean, it was close. And it was frankly, it was too close. But even so, that's awesome. It failed. So hip hip hooray on that one. Let me give you some Butler County, Ohio stats here. Again, you may say, who cares about Butler County, Ohio? Just very briefly. Butler County, Ohio is one of those counties that has always been attempted to turn blue when it's always been red. The largest employer in Butler County, Ohio, the county just north of Hamilton County, which is where Cincinnati is. The largest employer is Miami University. The vast majority of the employees who work for Miami University are non-teaching and non-administrative staff. So you're talking secretaries, grounds crew, you name it. These individuals are by and large conservative. All of them. The vast majority are. So Butler County, Ohio is a red county. Really always has been, really always will be. Donald Trump got 112,440 votes to Kamala Harris's 65,291. So twice as many people voted for Donald Trump than they did Kamala Harris. That should tell you just about all you need to know. Supreme Court, It was pretty much conservative right down the board. Here in this county, Bernie Moreno got 102,924 votes, and Sherrod Brown got 68,304 votes. Again, twice as many practically for Bernie Moreno. Warren Davidson won against Vanessa Enoch, and as I've said before, you can't make this up. The individuals on the ballot here were by and large, again, white conservatives, white conservative males, and they were running against black female communists. That was your choice. I mean, at face value, that was that was the choice. It was hilarious. The choice is pretty flippin' clear, but either way, there was that. Running down the lane here, let me see. Diane Mullins. This woman, bless her heart, she beat the incumbent, who was Sarah Crothers, conservative. Diane Mullins got 10,000 more votes than Vanessa Cummings, who, again, black communist. Diane Mullins is also a pastor in our county, and she's the one who's openly stated that Jews are trying to take over the world. She won. So I love it. She's going to the Ohio House Senate. 47th district. There you go. So she's a state rep. She's our new state rep. Everybody loves her. Why not? Okay, the local, this is hilarious too. The local communist city councilwoman, Chantel Ragu, in the town where I live, Oxford, Ohio, she was running for county commissioner against a guy named Donald Dixon. Donald Dixon's been the county commissioner here forever. Again, old white conservative male. He crushed her. Donald Dixon got 113,716 votes. Chantel Ragu got 58,596 votes. She just got beaten into the ground, but she won't learn. She'll say to herself something like, well, 58,000 people voted for me, and that's quite a compliment. You got destroyed. You're a communist. And these people run on open borders, affordable housing, equal opportunity for everybody. That just means invading us with foreigners, and no one likes that. Again, Richard Jones won, the sheriff, because he was unopposed, but he got 133,335 votes. So, again, more people seem to vote for him than not, but either way, whatever. I didn't vote for him because he's trash. There was a redistricting electioneering, whatever you want to call it, gerrymandering issue on the Ohio ballot, which was issue 1. Overwhelmingly, people voted no on issue 1. The people who voted no were, totals here, 102,272. To the people who voted yes, 65,489. That means that, again, the state doesn't get to redraw the lines of what's a precinct and what isn't, or what is a district and what's not, and XYZ. Again, it's an old Democrat trick. Just redistrict the lines, and then, we'll somehow win in the future. It's absurd. Unfortunately, in the town where I live, the town levy passed. Again, it passed by approximately 2,000 people. 2,000 more people voted for issue 2, which was a local tax levy having to do, again, with fire trucks, and we need more fire trucks, and we can't put the firefighters out of business because blah, blah, blah. As you've heard me say, the meat wagons are running nonstop in these towns. And they don't have the fire trucks. But, well, I don't give a shit about that. I don't want to pay higher taxes. No one does. But apparently, again, you throw fire department or fire truck onto the levy, and people vote for it. It's absolutely absurd. Let me see here. There's more regarding that. The Lane Public Library, more people voted for that. At least 10,000 people more voted for the Lane Public Library renewal. Seems a bit ridiculous, and unfortunately, Butler County's tax having to do with mental health and additional mental health services, all fraudulent, they got at least 20,000 more votes for that tax levy. So congratulations, everybody living in Butler County, Ohio. You just voted to tax yourself more than you're already being taxed. Again, you've heard me bring this up before. These people should buy a bullet and rent a gun and shoot themselves in the foot, because that's exactly what they're doing here when they vote to tax themselves more. But you can't live without your fire truck and your library. We need those books and those fire trucks, Sean. Give me a break. No, we don't. No, we don't. I find it absolutely laughable. I can't believe that people continue to vote themselves out of money. Okay, with all that aside now and all the local stuff aside, let me get back to the national stuff. Again, it continues, I think, to prove voter fraud. In Vermont, for example, yes, that's right. When is the last time you've heard me bring up Vermont on the show? Vermont. Their governor is now Republican, but Bernie Sanders still wins the Senate seat? How is that possible? How does that kind of stuff happen? See, that's where the voter fraud exists. Nobody goes, you know what? I'm going to vote for that Republican senator, or I'm sorry, that Republican governor in a state that hasn't had one since God knows when. But I'm also going to check that box for Bernie Sanders because he's my favorite communist. Who does that? Nobody. No one does that. You don't go down the ballot and pick your old favorite communist and then just choose nothing but conservatives throughout the entire thing, except for Bernie Sanders, that old scab. It doesn't happen. That's voter fraud. Back to Ruben Gallego in Arizona, same thing. You have to have these Jewish-owned strongholds and these positions in place to make sure that certain things stay a particular way. That has to happen. And that's unfortunate. But that's the state of our country. I mean, it's still an occupied country. It's completely occupied. There's rampant voter fraud everywhere. But again, that was just one of the notes I took. I saw that and I thought, you've got to be joking. They now have a Republican governor in Vermont, but Bernie Sanders overwhelmingly won against his opponent, who was a conservative. Again, give me a break. The Florida issue on weed and abortion both failed. Both issues failed. In fact, on Fox News, it was their token mixed-race Democrat guy who was sitting at the table, a former congressman from Tennessee. My apologies on forgetting his name. He's on the 5 a lot on that particular show. He called it early in favor of those particular issues. He goes, well, based on my sources and what I'm being told, the Florida weed issue passed. He came back later, about 10 minutes, and he goes, sorry, I was wrong. It failed. It's like, yeah, good. So again, late-term abortion and weed failed in Florida. Excellent. Okay, local issues, I did that. Sorry, I'm still rocking through my notes here. Okay, again, the difference between 2020 and 2024 isn't just that people shifted their political affiliations. It's not just the so-called economy, quote unquote, or inflation, as they like to say. That's not it. It's the depopulation agenda. It's wiped out copious amounts of people. We know that that's the case. But again, no one's going to say that. They're looking at all of this and they're all forgetting the thing that's gone on between 2020 and 2024. People are going to say COVID, quote unquote. They'll say, well, COVID had an impact and the pandemic certainly had an impact and people didn't like a lot of what went on there, but anywho, on to the weather. No. Overwhelmingly, Democrats fell for it. They wore the mask, they took the shot, they distanced, they did the same thing with their children, their families have broken up, endless people have moved, which that right there too is a huge element in this. Moving. When individuals again become sick in a family, lots of people move. They pick up their stakes and they move. This has been the way that it's been in our country since the founding of our country and long before then. It's a familial aspect that exists just among human nature. That when people get sick and or die, families come together and they move. They leave particular areas. But when you combine all of that with the death toll from the shots, that's a level of population decrease that you cannot overcome with voter fraud. The number is too high. It's way too high. So mark my words again. People will say COVID, they'll say pandemic, they'll say this, they'll say that. They'll say they didn't like the lockdowns, the measures, the masks, the mandates, the blah, blah, blah. It's the death toll. That's the issue here. So again, just keep that in mind going forward. I'm telling you, it's the variable in the equation that you're not going to hear these people say. Even again, the people in the so-called alternative media, they're not even seeing this. They're not even bringing this up. I don't think Alex Jones is going to bring that up. I mean, maybe he has. I haven't been listening to him, so I don't know. But again, I didn't hear it last night. No one was mentioning this last night. So I'm going to close this particular episode out very briefly, and I'm just going to say this again. There are a couple of end points that I want to make here. First of all, I find it unfortunate that that Rumble, the streaming service, of course, and the video streaming service, they're running a hardcore Adolf Hitler, anti-German, anti-Adolf Hitler ad in their entire whatever, in all of their promos. That's completely ridiculous. It's for some multi-part series again. It's not the Martin Scorsese thing, it's something else. But it's completely ridiculous. Again, I fully understand that Jews run Rumble, and they have to. I mean, I get it, but it's embarrassing. Because again, the number of channels that exist on Rumble that know the truth about real history, you know, they of course find this appalling, as do I. But either way, I just wanted to bring that to your attention, that unfortunately is an ad that is running on Rumble when you click on something to watch. And yeah, it was popping up last night like crazy. In that same vein, I think it was Laura Ingraham at Fox News sitting at the table. She said something like, Republicans aren't buying the Nazi fascist language and the name calling. That all of that didn't work. Well, that's interesting, because if all of that didn't work, what does that mean? It means that more people know the truth about those words, more people know the truth about real history, and if those names in those historic events are being used as this blanket statement like, well, you're an anti-Semite, and all that other nonsense, you're a Holocaust denier, all of that stuff, it doesn't work on us because we know what the truth is. Your name calling doesn't work. So yeah, they can call us all the so-called names they want. They can call us fascists, that's fine. Technically, we kind of are, because we're against communists. So yeah. Well, they're white supremacists. Well, if white supremacy ran this country, we wouldn't have a lot of problems in this country, would we? Donald Trump's a dictator. He's going to lock up everybody and he's a dictator. Well, he's not a dictator, but we want accountability. That's what we want. And we put him in that office. And we put a lot of people in office because there's a lot of things that we want to see. Accountability has to be the thing that we all see here, and we can't let these people off the hook. We cannot do it. This is where the real battle begins. This battle on election night was won. Congratulations again to everybody. It was fantastic. Not surprising to us. Surprising, of course, to the shot-laden, shot-riddled Democrats who are lunatics, who name-call and whatever else because they don't have any other issue or common sense. They're all communists, ladies and gentlemen. This is not a communist country. It wasn't built to be a communist country. It wasn't designed to be a communist country. This was not what the Founding Fathers wanted. And we overwhelmingly again said that's not going to stand. Now that this is the case, where Donald Trump has won, and overwhelmingly so, and as I'm recording this, Kamala Harris has still not said anything, so she's either dead or drunk or something. But either way, there has to be accountability. And we have to do our best to make sure that the people who said what they were going to do actually do it. That has to be our job going forward here. It has to be. I want to see tanks in the streets. I want to see illegal aliens being rounded up and being shackled and being in a long line of people on a consistent basis being tossed out of this country. I've heard a lot of different numbers too. I've heard even sheriffs in other states say, we don't have the resources. We can't possibly do that. You could with the military. And I know a bunch of ex-military who didn't take the shots, who got kicked out, who would love to return for one last mission. They would love to come back for one last mission. And that mission would be to rid our country of illegal aliens and criminals. Give them a vest, bulletproof vest, give them a gun. And let's start kicking down some fucking doors. That has to happen. We have the manpower to get rid of these people. We have the population to get rid of these people. Hell, I'll help them. I know where they live in my town. I'll help you. I'll point at the building. I'll kick down a couple doors with you. Just have the paddy wagons ready to take them away. And of course, if anybody gets in our way, local politicians, local law enforcement, and they get in your way when you're removing these illegal aliens, then you arrest them too. But people are going to get shot. And people are going to get killed in that roundup. That's going to happen because these people are not going to go out without a fight. They're going to dig in like ticks. But they have to be gotten rid of. And we have to hold these politicians, quote unquote, accountable. If they all of a sudden back off or get weak on this issue, no. Nope. All the jobs and all the money in the world won't fix this because our eyes aren't going to lie to us. We're going to see these illegal aliens and they have to go. So again, I'm going to leave it there. Thank you for listening. Lots of cool stuff happening. It's going to keep happening. Continue to pray for the safety of endless individuals. Again, the lawfare is going to kick into high gear here. The House of Representatives is going to get crazy, even though I think the conservatives have won the House and the Senate. That's all good. Hopefully the wars come to an end. Hopefully Benjamin Netanyahu hangs by the neck until dead in an international court for his war crimes and 1,000 other things. Not holding my breath on that. But I hope that happens. Yeah, and we'll just see what happens. But again, we got to hold these people accountable too. So it's a tough thing, but we're still at war, and that's still happening. Okay. Let me mention this too. In fact, I want to spend a second on this because this is important, and I'm already hearing this, which is the disappointing part. Because Donald Trump won, like I said earlier, we can't let these people off the hook. But we can't let people believe that because he won this particular time, that he didn't win in 2020. We can't let them bury the fact that it was stolen in 2020. You already have people like Kayleigh McEnany on Fox News right now, openly saying, well, the American people changed their minds from 2020 to 2024. They overwhelmingly came out this time and shifted things back to Donald Trump. No. He won in 2016, he won in 2020, and he won in 2024. That's what happened here. But what we can't also allow to have happen is allow Donald Trump to somehow sweep 2020 under the rug. We can't do that either. We know that 2020 was stolen. We know that the good guys let them steal it to, again, catch them in all of their voter fraud and their, again, illegal certification of a fraudulent election. There has to be accountability for that. That's the big accountability also that has to happen here, outside of rounding up all the illegals. It has to be that. We cannot let this go on and let our country continue to be built on the telling of lies from a historic perspective and expect to change anything for the better. It can't happen. We have to have court rulings that openly show that 2020 was fraudulent. This has to be well known and become well known across the nation. It's never too late for that to be the case, but we can't let this victory on 2024 on Election Day overshadow that. Or everybody just say, well, Trump's back in now, so all the bad shit that happened in the past, well, that's just water under the bridge. No. Nope. We can't allow that to happen. We have to consistently bring this up, and we have to keep making this the fresh issue in everyone's minds. We can't let any of that be water under the bridge. Fraud is fraud, illegality is illegality, and people need to hang by the neck until dead. And that has to happen. We still have to see this. So don't let all the pomp and circumstance and all the celebratory nonsense get in the way. The fact is that we still need the accountability that we've all longed for here. Dating years and years and years back. We still have to see it. This still has to happen. With that said, again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening, and I will probably catch you on Friday. Peace.
Thank you for listening to American Education FM. Make sure and check out AmericanEducationFM.com for more information. Take care and God bless.